Hello and welcome to this week's Old School Q&A. I hope you're having a wonderful week. I'm your host Mod Gambit and I'm joined on the couch this week by Mod Bruno.
Hello.
Mod West.
Hey.
On my left I have Mod Lenny.
Hello.
Mod Ash.
Hello.
And on the end there we have Mod Acorn.
Hello.
So we're going to start off the usual way with a few announcements. The first is relating to the bug that came out a couple of weeks ago with the attack style change, which was rather unfortunate. Do you want to give an update on pures that have been affected, please, Mod Acorn?
Yep, so Mod Maz and I have manually gone through the form thread that the players have posted on it. It's roughly 1,000 names, give or take, on the list. Some of the names are quite interesting, but nonetheless, yes. But nonetheless, we are working through them. So just to give you more full transparency of what we are doing with those names is we're putting them down on a sheet that we can then give to data to make sure and verify that the accounts did or did not gain the XP that's been listed on the form thread. And then from there, we're going to then work on a process to get the XP reverted, or in this case removed from the account. So we are in the process of working on it. We thank you so much for your patience. I know that it's been 2 weeks. We are working round the clock that we can. I know that Mod Maz did some overtime over the weekend to get some names through, so just be patient with us and we're working on it.
Some things wouldn't go better if rushed.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, well, thank you very much, Mod Acorn. While we have you here, are you able to also give us some lighter news regarding the Treasure Trails expansion?
Yep, so today we've posted a blog on the Treasure Trails expansion. It includes things such as beginner clue scrolls, new rewards, new puzzles, new challenges, and we've got some graphical changes which should appear on your screen. These graphical changes are to help differentiate between different tiers. We've also got, along with the new rewards and the new puzzles, we've got other features that have been suggested that are up for polling, things such as the re-rolling, the stackable caskets, multiple clue scrolls. So please look at the poll blog so that we can get feedback before we go to poll on Friday. It's really important to take down feedback and considerations and update the poll blog accordingly so that way we can get what you guys want out of the game and the poll.
Oh, thank you very much. It's !Treasure Trails in the chat to take you straight to the poll blog Mod Acorn's referring to. Actually, if we could bring that image back quickly, I believe it was yourself, wasn't it, Mod West, who did these. Do you want to talk a little bit about them? I know there's not a whole lot to say. We can see
yeah,
there,
so essentially I've just changed the colours of the bottles and the nests a little bit just to match the sort of standard rarity scale that we get in most games. I think the only two that have really changed are the I think the medium and the hard ones, and maybe the easy. One of them, or two of them. I don't know, not too many. And then, of course, the clue scrolls themselves. They were sort of inspired by a player suggestion. They didn't want to change too much of them, keep them still, similar to what's currently in game, and then just add it so you can diversify them, especially like when on mobile, when you don't have to like right click to see what you've got, that sort of thing.
I noticed how you've gone with the clue scrolls there in the top right. They sort of get nicer and nicer. It's sort of the one way to put it from beginner to master.
Yeah, essentially.
So you start off with like a tatty one, and then the master one's quite furnished, I guess, for lack of a better word.
So for most of them, especially the better ones, it looks like a kind of sealing wax effect you've got going there, or
sealing wax.
Oh
right, yeah, sort of like a seal on it.
A stamp, yeah. Whereas the beginner one, obviously, is a lot plainer, just a small white speck. Is that because when it was in the bird's nest, the bird kind of...
I suppose so, it could be that.
Not that I want to suggest that your work looks like bird poo. Someone's got to make it.
There we go, that's canon now.
A lot, not just this clue scroll graphical changes, but a lot of the art that you see in the poll blog was designed by Mod West. Yep. So things such as the Blessed D'hide shields, the spiked manacles, the Third Age Druidic. Well,
that was inspired, taken from the RS3 sort of design from that. So lots of player suggestions that I've been going through and sort of creating what everyone wants.
Of course, all your designs are incredible as always, Mod West, but do you have a particular favourite from the ones you've done so far?
Oh, favourite. The thing I just made was pretty funny. I'm working on a joint of ham at the moment.
Okay, nice.
I just just worked on that before I came down, and that's going to be good.
Excellent.
Looking forward to it.
Oh,
Okay.
Just a little fun weapon.
I look forward to seeing that. So I'm going to thank Mod Acorn, who's going to now hop over to manage the chat for us. If you have any any questions you would like answered on stream, make sure to enter them in the chat, and Mod Acorn will catch them for us to answer. And I'm going to sub on a mystery guest who we haven't actually met before. I didn't actually plan any filler, so we're just going to do the swap very quickly. Well, hey, here we go. So we have a new face here. We'll give him a few seconds to mic up. Filler. How's your day been, Mod West?
Yeah, it's been alright. Just been making some pretty things.
Nice. Excellent.
I'll just hold it.
You might be holding it a while.
I might want to get it clipped on.
It's a little bit of a.
Have you had a good morning so far, Mod Bruno?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, what have you been up to? Or can you not say too much?
There we go.
It will sort of spoil this week's update, but yeah, making sure everything in the update is
It's been pulled, hasn't it? So they should
true.
have an idea of what it might be.
Yeah,
Actually, the changes to combat scaling in Chambers of Zerek weren't, but they seem to have been quite well received as a player suggestion.
Oh yes, that is coming.
Strictly speaking, the World 45G wasn't polled either. On the other hand, the users of that world did seem quite keen to get one. Ideally, they'd have got one a couple of years ago. I'm afraid we weren't able to offer that, but they've seen the list of what's coming to that world in this forthcoming update, along with a GE. I think we did quite a few of the things that the Deadman's had on seasonal as well, like being able to get tier 5 emblems from higher end monsters, getting an increased rate of emblems while doing Wilderness Slayer, and we opened up temple trekking as well, so they can get the lumberjack kit.
Well, thank you, Ash. I'm going to, before things go much further, I'm going to say hello to the new face on the couch. This is Mod Husky. If everyone in chat would say hi and welcome them warmly.
Hey.
Well, would you like to tell us what your role on the Old School team is?
Sure. So started this week as a junior content dev for Old School. Yeah, quite excited to do stuff. So I've seen a few people in chat say, "Is this the guy behind the Tebow Swan?" No, I was not here at that time.
Excellent. Have you been finding it so far? What have you been up to?
It's been a lot of fun, actually. My previous job was working sort of software engineer, grids, reports, filters for oil and gas industry. A lot less fun. This is getting to play around with things in game for a game that I've played for a long time, and it's been a lot of fun. RuneScript has its own nuances I've got to figure out. So, looking forward to the process of learning that, and then obviously getting my hands onto real in-game code, develop stuff that the players will hopefully really enjoy.
Oh, awesome. So you mentioned just there you've been playing Old School for a while. Do you want to tell us what your history with the game is?
Sure. So like most people, I did play back in the old days when the servers were about. Moved on to World of Warcraft, that sort of thing, eventually. Heard that the Old School RuneScape servers came back up. Played for a little bit, kind of dropped off. And then Iron Man mode came out, and that was kind of what sparked my interest, the idea of having to go get everything yourself, work your way up through the tiers, get all the armor yourself. So I've been playing that game mode for 3-ish years, maybe just a bit longer. Closing in on max, so hopefully...
Very nice.
I've got 4 skills to go, so hoping to get there before the end of the year, see how much I get done with all my work here and stuff. Yeah.
Awesome. Very exciting.
Which skills?
No, I've done rune crafting actually. Agility, prayer, mining, and smithing. So almost there with... got 2 easy ones, 2 not so easy ones.
By the way.
Relatively. But yeah, I'll just hold off on agility and that until you're sneaking a buff and then do that after.
Awesome. So I'm going to hit you with the usual new face question, which is if you could add anything into Old School unpolled, what would it be?
I'll go for the easy answer here, which is Group Iron Man. Sure. It's a game mode I've discussed with quite a few of my friends, quite a few Iron Man people in the community I've been friends with. We would all we've all thought about the idea of making it easier. The fact that if we get dupes, we can share them across. The fact that some of the more tedious grinds would be made a lot easier. I'd love to see features added to Group Ironman mode that would help distinguish it from just this is a person you can trade with. Obviously, I don't know what's possible and not possible yet with our code base, but I think it would be some cool ideas with like being able to maybe see the stats of the people you're with in game, maybe having like a shared house, that sort of thing.
Sure.
But obviously, these are ideas I can't promise to the community or like if we're working on it or we're not. So I like to see what's possible and kind of put my own input into this. Should go on.
Well, I know it's going to make you popular with the community. Group Ironman, one of the most requested features, which we're hopefully going to get around to eventually.
Yeah.
I saw people talking about it today, actually, along similar lines, saying, what if we could have like a shared bank sort of thing, so you don't necessarily have to be online at the same time to pool resources, that kind of stuff. So, excellent answer. So if you guys want to follow Mod Husky and keep up with his progress and see what he gets up to, it's !new mod will bring you straight to his Twitter, which is @JagexHusky. I'm going to announce a couple more things and then move on to the chat, but thank you very much for your time.
No problem.
Sorry, Mod Husky, I'm going to try not to dox you on your first stream.
That's okay.
So yeah, thank you very much. And like I say, everyone drop him a follow on Twitter, and we look forward to seeing what you get up to.
No problem. Worth going to the Twitter. My actual husky is on the profile, so if you like cute animals, go check it out.
Excellent.
Cheers.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye, Tom.
Don't forget the microphone.
Oh,
He's learning.
cool. So, final announcements are, obviously we recently polled the main content for Song of the Elves, including the quest itself, Prifddinas, and the two main bits of post-quest content, i.e. the Gauntlets, the PVM challenge, and Zolcano, the skilling boss. Everything has passed, I'm delighted to say, which is excellent. What's left to do now is poll the remaining sort of extra rewards and features, smaller things that you would like to see in Prifddinas. We're currently opening that discussion with you guys to see what you would like. If you want to get involved, !rewards will take you straight to the thread where we are getting those ideas. We've got two separate discussions going on, one for the little features and rewards and another for Crystal Armor specifically, because we're really trying to make sure we get that balance right. I know it's been a hot topic, a sort of contentious potential armor set, so let us know what you think, how it should look, what the set's niche should be, and we'll try and reflect that as well as possible when we're writing up the poll blog and actually polling it for the game. So with all of that said and out of the way, I'm going to move on to the questions now, the first of which is from a player called Skit. And they say, Mod West, you showed off a possible Arceus Spellbook rework about a year ago. Is there any update available on this, or has the idea been scrapped?
The idea has definitely not been scrapped, but we're just sort of trying to find a place to put it in, really. I do have plans for the future of the layout of Arceus House, so that could be a potential good update to pair it with. I don't think I've not made any direct changes to it, but there are certainly some changes that need to be made based on the feedback on some of those spells, as some of them were a bit overpowered and some of them were a little bit unnecessary. And just discussion about which spell should be on which spellbook sort of thing. Sure.
Are you able to tease any sort of the ideas for spells that have been going around?
It's mostly just removing some of them because they're a bit too strong, perhaps. It would be nice if we could do some sort of way of testing them with the players and have them see how they would actually act, how they play out in game, rather than just assuming they might be too strong.
Sure. Yeah, I like the idea of getting the players involved to demo this sort of thing, for sure. There's sort of a sub-question here which is related from Dixon Sidar Mouth. They say, can the Arceus spellbook combine all of the reanimate spells into one, such as the crossbow bolt enchantment spells?
The spellbook did sort of cover
Did I just fall into a trap right away?
Yep.
What?
What was it? I didn't listen to the name.
Oh, I want to know this one.
Oh, it was such an obvious one as well. First question. Oh, man. What a terrible start. I'm going to move on.
Anyway, to answer the question.
In my defence, I didn't actually put that in. Someone put the question in for me for that one, so I just assumed that I'm safe. Sorry, yeah, you can answer the question.
So the spellbook rework did sort of take into account fusing a few of the spells together, which sort of changed a few of the levels around. Obviously, the higher end leveled spells got removed down a little bit, moving them into a single, sort of like the crossbow interface could work, but I still think it doesn't really solve the problem of having just too many spells that are doing pretty much the same thing.
Sure.
So, push them into like different tiers, a bit like how the jewelry comes in separate different tiers would probably be a little bit better.
Ah, awesome. I actually have a note from Mod Ed on this question, and he says that the idea that the rework would come alongside the next Corrend quest, with the quest rewarding some of the new spells. That's not quite a coherent sentence, but I think I understand what you're trying to say.
So currently we have the 5 beginner Corrend quests that could come with the next quest in that spell.
Sure.
So the spellbook would rearrange itself by merging the spells if you'd done that quest, otherwise not?
The spellbook would still change, but the new spells would be rewards from the new quest.
All right, sorry.
Ah, there we go. Right, I'm going to be very careful reading these usernames out for the rest of the stream. Our second question is from SBO. They say, can we get some lore for the corporeal beast? It doesn't necessarily have to be a quest, but some explanation as to why it's there. How do we feel about this one?
So would they want the lore from the quest from the RuneScape 3 game? The actual Summer's End quest? Or would they want something original?
It would be appropriate if there was something similar.
Yeah.
I mean, how the thing got there, why it exists at all.
Yeah.
Even if it didn't make players go through any content like that quest from RS3, which we wouldn't be available to recreate completely.
I think
Especially this first one wasn't all that interesting.
yeah, we do sort of try to keep similar beats between games. I don't want to tell the exact same story, but as long as it sort of has similar endings, and I mean clearly there's a similar ending as the beast is there. So
I can barely remember the storyline for Summer's End. What was the premise again?
it's been a while.
In Spirit of Summer, you meet the Bond family who live in that abandoned farm. You can go back and forth between this sort of spectral realm where you can engage with them and the real wilderness, made in times when, of course, the wilderness wasn't a PvP zone. Sadder days. And you'd learn to communicate with them and use your summoning skill to help keep the spirit beast at bay. And in the sequel, Summer's End, you had to do complicated rituals to try and drive the beast back into its and deal with its dark core, and learned about that mechanic for the first time, and eventually cause the thing to die. At which point, somehow it became corporeal and was a nice new boss for you, which the characters hadn't been expecting, but said, yeah, that's the thing. And then they go to their eternal rest, and you get a nice new boss to play with. It's called corporeal because it was a spirit beast, and then it stops being spiritual and becomes corporeal. But that's not a great name because every blinking thing that isn't a ghost is basically corporeal.
I suppose for that reason we wouldn't be able to do the same quest regardless, because the corporeal beast is already there. We can't bring it into existence through the quest.
Also, the wilderness PvP zone, and we don't have summoning.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely makes sense to sort of give some explanation in game as to why it exists.
Well, the easiest approach is to stick a skeleton in a cave with a book you can read, and it explains that a wizard did it and put this thing there. I prefer something better than that, though.
Or maybe like a drop you get from the beast because he swallowed someone's book.
It wasn't the most elaborate adaptation of RS3 content when we first got it, because while Alfie managed to recreate the models from RS3 for us, my former colleague who did the mapping just took the bare minimum, I think you could say, because we got the beast's chamber and we got the outer chamber, which went all the way to the edge of the map square and then stopped abruptly where the map file ended, and just had a straight line cave wall with a gap in it for climbing out of. And I was very glad to have a reason to remap that outer area sometime later. And while it's not the most fancy bit of mapping still, it at least isn't a humongous flat wall. I like this one better. The reason we did it was that the distance from where you came into the cave to the next loading screen trigger was right in the middle of the corp fight, which meant that you really didn't want that to be the place where there was a loading boundary. So by shrinking the outer cave, we made the loading boundary not be there. I was quite pleased with that solution.
Yeah.
I'm going to move on to the next question, which is from Sadat704. They ask if we can get a message in our chat box that says, "This clue looks familiar," or something like that, if we have the hidey hole already filled.
Ooh, I like that.
I quite like that.
Yeah.
I think that's nice and useful.
Yeah, 'cause sometimes you take your things and then forget to put them back, and when that happens, you sort of get there, you look in your hidey hole and there's nothing there, and you're like, well,
Yep.
back to the bank.
Yeah, I'm seeing lots of yeses in chat, so it seems to be quite a popular one. If we can get
this
that.
be examining the clue or something written on it, or
It should be like a chat message.
If we could, yeah, so just a chat message that's triggered when you open a clue that, well, is associated with a hidey hole that you have filled, if that's feasible.
I suppose so.
Yeah, seems like a popular suggestion.
Have to
So
see what other things we've got to develop along this for this thing as well, from the actual poll before padding out the project with nice to have extras.
sure.
But it does sound like a nice one.
Sanguine something says, "Can the drop tables of older monsters, such as the lesser, greater, and black demons, be looked into?"
You don't like thread?
They used to drop really good gear for the time when they were brought in, but now their drop tables are, well, simply inferior to monsters released more recently of similar or lesser difficulty.
I don't know if we could. I don't know if changing that would be that great. It's sort of like quite a nice thing to have it sort of reminiscent of the old sort of drop tables. I wouldn't mind making demonic caches sort of useful though.
More useful. Yeah, that's a nice
in a way of gaining some prayer bonus, like what prayer experience, like you would from like normal bones or big bones. They did that with urns, like in RuneScape 3, which I don't know if that was an amazingly popular idea, but that was kind of cool.
It was useful,
urns-
yeah.
The urns themselves weren't strictly required. Once you got the gash, you could just scatter.
Oh yeah, you could scatter
that as
normally.
well. I think it's more of a point of these new drop tables are a lot stronger than the old ones.
Yeah.
And with the talks of us maybe wanting to rebalance every drop table, maybe buffing this one before rebalance all the other ones is a bad idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
It's sort of what gives Konar Slayer tasks that sort of extra bit of encouragement to do it, because you can do those sort of lesser interesting tasks, but still have that opportunity to get those nice drops every now and then. And they wouldn't really be quite as impactful if the rest of the table was already really good.
Yeah, for sure. That makes sense.
And you can always kill the boss versions if you really want to. You can kill demonic gorillas, or you can go kill Krill, Tutsaroth, Zami. Unless you've got lesser demons in that case. I don't know.
The fact that the things are like great big sacks of hit points, which equates to big sacks of XP for not too much effort, meant they were a very relaxing task, I found.
Yeah.
I'll move on to our next question from Dropping Fruits. They ask if we can explain the lore behind having a sawmill in Prifddinas. It doesn't seem to make much sense considering that the elves don't seem to use planks but rather build things from living wood. Does anyone want to take on this question? I have a note from Ed, if not.
I've not really been too involved with the actual environment of the area yet, but there's definitely wood in there. It's not just crystal.
Yeah.
The elves have tables and things, a bank and shelves.
Lots of things.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see what Ed said about this.
Mod Ed said very similar. He said plenty of buildings in Prifddinas are partially made from wood, so it makes sense that they would have a sawmill to produce the planks needed. I actually have a follow-up question from Smunt B. They say, in the blog it mentions wanting to move the crystal in... Oh, this is not necessarily related, but it's there anyway. In the blog it mentions wanting to move the crystal equipment imbues inside Prifddinas. Could this be changed to an area that does not require the new quest to access? The crystal bow has always been useful for pures as it can shoot max range without being on long range. I think you saw this question on Twitter, Ash, but sort of with...
I saw you said that you were going to address it on the stream.
Yes.
Thought I'd let you do so.
So, my opinion is still that we should move imbues away from Nightmare Zone wherever we can, and the crystal ones moving to post-content for Song of the Elves is sort of a no-brainer as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
The reason this question is particularly pertinent is because of Pures and part of an ongoing discussion where currently the Fairy Tale Part 2 requirement on Song of the Elves would mean Pures aren't able to complete the quest and therefore access this sort of post-quest content. We are currently having a discussion between sort of Mod Ed and everyone else who's involved as to whether or not we should change that requirement and allow Pures to do the quest.
The way you phrase it sounds almost like everyone's on one side and he's on the other.
Oh, no. So we're not arguing with him. We're just, yeah, it's an ongoing discussion. It sort of raised a larger question in terms of where we draw the line in terms of what content should be locked or not locked off to Pures.
Well, at the moment, if they want to imbue the thing, they can get access to Nightmare Zone.
Yes.
In future, are you suggesting that would change and that they would become locked off where it currently isn't?
I would be very hesitant to take anything away from a player who's earned something. But in terms of changing how it's accessed in future, I would be less hesitant if it's right or in sort of, I think, right for the game. But then again, it's not just my opinion that really matters here. It's the devs designing the content, QA, and everyone else who's involved. So yeah, that is an ongoing discussion.
The main issue here is that it affects a smaller community who have less sway when it comes to the polls, which is sort of feel a little unfair in a way.
That's true. I think that's why in this particular case, and cases like it, it's better to get these decisions right at the design stage before.
Yeah. So you say that if they can currently imbue something, you think they should be able to continue doing so?
I'm not sure I follow the question.
Okay. If Pures in the game right now have access to the imbue of something, it sounds like you would be opposed to changing the source of that imbue so that they can't get it anymore after the update. Such as taking an imbue that's currently on Nightmare Zone and moving it to the other side of a quest that happens to have defense requirements.
Well, this is
a tough one.
This is what you were talking to Ed about, but I'm not.
Yes.
It sounds like you were leaning to not doing that kind of thing when you said you didn't want to take things away from players.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is why. I mean, my personal opinion. I know the chat might not like this, but my personal opinion is that Song of the Elves should be accessible to Pures. The only reason it's not currently is Nature Spirit's defense reward, not any defense requirement. There we go. Lots of no's in the chat. But yes, I wouldn't necessarily lock something off to players after they've already been able to get it. But it's a case of just making sure the content is right for future players.
And those rewards of the imbued crystal equipment make sense to be a reward from Song of the Elves.
Yeah, I think so.
Or similar content.
I don't agree that makes perfect sense, but my only concern would be locking such a... I mean, it's an okay use, but I mean, it's not that great to imbue things. Like, it doesn't make it that much more useful. And locking it behind like such a high-level quest, at that point, I don't think the people who have completed that quest would use those items like crystal bows.
That's valid. Although, fingers crossed, if we get the sort of crystal armor balancing right and the mail get enough post-quest content suggestions which are to do with this, things like the crystal quiver idea, they might be a bit more worthwhile then. But yeah, anyway, that's our stance on that for the time being. I'm going to move on to the next question. I think I've lingered on this one.
Perhaps there's a bit more stuff that you'll be discussing with Ed after that one.
Well,
yes, I think so. How would you pronounce that name? Number 6.
If it's obscene.
I don't know.
See, I don't know either.
It's just a bunch of...
Let's just take
If anyone's brave enough to give this a stab.
There's no vowels.
Xumpy.
Can we? Okay, thank you, Ash. They ask, is there any chance we could stuff and mount the golden tench in our player-owned house? It seems fitting.
I was wondering where that sentence was going.
Appropriate pause. In our player-owned house, it seems fitting to be alongside the rest of the mounted fish.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. No objections here.
Yeah, it's a very rare fish. It looks all right.
I would have thought people would have preferred to, like, you know, flex it on
use
people.
it. Yeah.
Go around slapping them.
You can get more of the things.
Yes,
I mean,
so.
they're not common, but you're not limited to just one tench.
That's true.
In fact, we let you trade in spare ones now, so letting you stuff it sounds marvellous. Especially if then we'd have the well-stuffed tench.
Yep.
Stone, whoever that might be, has asked, can we get an app that notifies us whether or not Mod Ash has a cup of tea on the go? That way we can sync up on when we should make tea and drink as a family.
Where do we get these questions?
I think this was raised on Twitter.
Well, is Ash sending out this notification, or is someone following him around sending this out?
Well, we have to get a new mug that's like electronic, and whenever it's filling up, it sends out a notification.
Oh, yeah, I guess that would
I think
work.
that's like the best way to.
How would you feel about this, Ash?
I think, as a rule of thumb, I've probably got a mug of tea.
So just always have one.
So you just assume if you're making tea that you're having it at the same time as Ash, by default.
Okay.
Next question.
Just sorted.
The next question is from Katie, and she asks, is it possible to have a teleport for outside the Inferno pit implemented as a reward for defeating the Inferno at least once? Maybe add a chat option to the dude outside to ask for one. Right now, the fastest way to get there is to use the minigame teleport to fight caves, or use the fairy ring, which is basically like running a marathon, to get to the Inferno/Inferno banks. Yes, the dude outside the Inferno.
Well, that would be a hard NPC name to pronounce, I think.
I sort of agree with the fact that it does like take like a good minute to get to the bank and then to go back to the Inferno. But I don't think it's that needed, given that you don't go there that often unless you're like camping the Inferno. Which in that case, you probably just don't even need to leave, just back, have things in your bank.
Okay, fair enough.
I think that given you're only likely to want to go to that location once, stay there for a while, and then not come back for a while, I think giving you sort of closer access to that just kind of makes the world seem a bit smaller. It's one of those things where having teleports everywhere just makes everything seem a lot smaller as a whole, which I'm not a big fan of. And considering you only need to really run there once at a time, I don't see it as a big deal.
Maybe not a teleport to the Inferno, but a teleport to the Tazar area, since there isn't one.
That's a good opportunity for like a new treasure trail teleport scroll.
Good thinking.
That fairy ring isn't the most convenient place for anything, is it? Like, I thought it was always just stuck down a corridor that leads nowhere good.
I think that corridor.
There in the middle, really.
Yeah.
Okay, so it seems like we're leaning towards probably not all that necessary, although a SAR area teleport might be useful. Our next question is from Angel, and they ask, are there any future plans to give additional uses to redwood logs? I noticed in the replies to this, the obvious sort of answer would be redwood planks for construction, but these could be, given how good mahogany and teak are already, it could be quite strong.
Yeah, it's come up before.
If it were not a new best XP method, like it weren't at all good, if it weren't made as great XP, but it were pretty expensive and thus prestigious and used a lot of gold leaf as well and made distinctive looking furniture, then for those who do want to really, I would have to say pimp their house.
Yes, I think
buff their house. Have a pretty house. Have a really pretty house. Those people might actually have a use for it as a high-end thing with high-end construction requirements to show the ultimate pretty house.
Yeah, I'd be up for making some
So as a cosmetic.
new locations for that.
I was really gutted that we didn't get to use the sort of, it looked kind of Chinese-style archway you made.
Oh yeah.
I couldn't make the middle bit render in the way houses are, but
Yeah, it was one of the first sort of things I worked on location-wise when I started.
Oh, well, if you're proud of it, maybe we can work it in.
Well, no, I mean, I wasn't too bothered about it. It's just the way, usually if you want something to be above the player, you've got to render it on the floor above.
Yep.
But the way player and houses are built, every floor is sort of used. And if you have like a floor above it, sort of pushed it down into the dungeon, if I remember.
yes, it did.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also, it didn't appear or disappear along with the rest of the house correctly.
Oh.
So sometimes there'd just be this kind of red beam up there.
Okay, so it seems like we're open to giving redwood logs a use, possibly in construction, although we wouldn't want to boost the XP rates as they're already pretty good.
I mean, I did give them a sort of small use with the leather shields, but again, that was
this is
only
true.
a minor use.
Sure. So Grimchamp asks, can the fire of dehumidification also have its effect apply to ghasts in the temple trekking minigame? So for those of you who aren't sure what that is, when you complete Making Friends with My Arm, it gives you the option to light fire pits in several areas of the game with area effects. So like there's the God Wars one, which prevents the frost affecting you. So yeah, this one stops ghasts from trying to rot your food when you're in the
That would
swamp.
make sense, as technically those are part of the swamp. They're just sort of
Yeah.
ambiguously.
I think we'd always consider it was a different part of the swamp, too far from where you put your fire,
Is that what we'll,
rather than making the ghast-related challenges become sort of
pointless?
yeah, you walk straight through and out the other side. That said, if we didn't mind making those challenges a little more pointless, then totally.
Well, I think the problem is that most people for that mini game just sort of take the hardest companion and then just rush the easy ones. So I think people are just sort of avoiding them anyway.
So it'd be okay to do them.
Yeah. I mean, you know, worth following, I suppose.
In fact, I think it'd be easier if I recall. Mod Monroe had to exclude those
those areas.
Those areas, yeah, rather than just making ghasts as a global thing behave that way.
Seeing lots of Swampletics being mentioned in the chat. Obviously, he wouldn't be able to do this because making friends with my arm is outside of Mauritania. But
I do have this problem now.
The more I hear that quest title, the more I am very, very glad I. Yeah.
I've got a problem every time I think about adding things to Mauritania now. I'm thinking Swampletics. It's not really. I don't really like it. Well, I've got other plans for Mauritania as well. Like, people are just going to assume I'm trying to
actual buffs to
But I'm not. I'm just.
Well, the thing is,
had
there's
these ideas for ages.
the stuff we want to do, like with sleep especially.
Yeah.
It's like, well, now it's going to look like we're catering to one player. I'm going to move on to the next question from Tom, who asks, how does the team feel about adding corrupted PvP armors to the game? This would give more options in PvP and act as a gold sink, as they would degrade to nothing over time. So,
were they free to play items?
I think they were, yeah.
yeah, so we're talking like the corrupt Statius and Zuriels and all that.
Yeah, Corrupt Dragon and all that as well.
Mm.
Don't know if it'd go as far as
Yeah.
Dragon.
I can't imagine it passing a poll.
Not looking at the chat. I don't know, do we have any particular thoughts or feelings on this one? I quite like the idea. I mean, the more options, the better, as far as I'm concerned. I'm not sure why.
The only issue with the free-to-play is changing up the meta can always be a bit of an issue.
Yeah.
They kind of have a very established builds, and
Sure.
changing that with new items can always mess with the sort of the ecosystem.
That's true.
And those items were added back when PvP worlds were a thing, before sort of like the true wilderness was there. They were there to sort of spice up PvP. And I feel like, I mean, we could spice up PvP a little bit, but I don't know if that's a bit too extreme.
Yeah. In the original post, Tom mentioned that there was a level 20 defense version. Was there? I don't remember that. I always thought it was 40.
Yeah, I think the things require 20 defense instead of whatever it did because they degrade really quickly.
Mm.
I'm no pro at PvK, especially in like 2010, so I can't remember exactly. But they degraded really quickly to dust. They were level 20 and free to play for the most part. I don't remember if they have the same exact stats as the regular items.
Mm. I know for Deadman purposes we stayed away from introducing the PvP armors in any form, just in favour of the weapons instead, just to spice things up and keep it more exciting. I know the PvP armors were really strong and tanky, in the same way the weapons are sort of massive for their KO potential. I personally would be up for adding the PvP weapons into game. I don't know how everyone else here feels about that.
They were. It was interesting seeing some of the PKing YouTubers sort of try them out in Deadman. They did make it a lot more interesting, but again, they were quite strong.
Also, in those Deadman things, it only has its effect for the session in question, and doesn't affect the longer term development, because in the next Deadman run, we didn't have to have them in again.
Yeah, and they assumed they'd have to be like disabled in PVM, and that sort. Well,
Yeah.
that sort of slippery slope.
A bit odd, yeah. I can see myself very quickly becoming the least popular JMod in chat. Which is why I'm going to move on to the...
recommend some monetization sources.
if you would. I'm going to move on to
Would you like to send us money, please?
I'll move on to the next question then, which is from Tree Gnomed, which is an appropriate name for the question. They ask, will you ever add useful rewards to Gnome Ball? Gnome Ball.
It's like a gilded Gnome Ball.
It
Yeah,
gives
that'd be
ranging XP, doesn't it?
Does it? We're talking total amounts.
Oh yeah. Well, back in Classic, right? I wasn't really enjoying walking around that gnome course very much. So occasionally I just take a break and go play around a gnome ball. I got to like level 10 range before I ever fired a bow. I'm not saying it was efficient, but it was just my little way back in. This was Classic those days, and I was getting up to the level to do Grand Tree. But yeah, there's something there, and a free gnome ball.
make Gnome Ball an eSport and host a $100,000 tournament.
I'd be well up for a Gnome Ball rework
They
that
did
made it
suggest a gnome child pet.
pet. I mean, I think we're crossing the line there to.
What about the sort of cheerleader outfit?
Ooh. I mean,
The
on
gnome
a full size,
size.
gnome sized on a
Yeah,
full.
it's a bit like
human.
the dwarf clothes that
Well,
you
it's a
can
crop top on a gnome. What's it going to look like?
Yeah. You might not be able to wear it like Goblin Mail because it's a bit too small.
wear. Oh yeah. You can unlock it, but you just can't equip it.
I was having a look at gnomes recently, partly because I was doing the 6th birthday event, and Gnome Child turns up to that as he always does. And I think it is the case that all of gnome children, all females are cheerleaders and all males are gnome child. What's with these gnomes?
That is peculiar.
That's
They
the
have a
real
very strict
questions.
culture.
Anyway, I think we should move on.
I think so too. Zygote asks, will you ever add 5-year veteran capes? Thoughts on this? Would you like to make one, Mod West?
Yeah, I do enjoy making capes. They're sort of one of the more fun things to make. You can sort of go a bit more crazy with them. But I assume they just want the one from RuneScape 3. But it doesn't look like they do actually, because it's just all nose.
Well, I would prefer to have a unique one for Old School. I wouldn't want the same design
I suppose
necessarily as the other game.
A cape with the old school logo on it, maybe.
Yeah.
That'd be quite cool. Or maybe the sword on it.
Yeah.
I don't know how often would really see it get used in game, considering we wouldn't want to give it any significant stats
No.
if you don't have to do anything to unlock it.
And yet longevity in an online community is king.
I guess they can't even, like back in the day, you'd have your holiday items to sort of show how long you've been around, but being as we sort of give everyone every holiday item, they can't really do that. So maybe they just want to like flex how long they've been around.
I would be glad if they could do that in a visible way. I mean, Hans will tell you, but he doesn't shout it. He could shout
You
it.
could, yeah.
You might not want him to shout it. This guy's a noob. This guy's a noob. This guy's a noob.
Yeah. I'm surprised by all of the no's in chat. I thought there'd be slightly more support for it, but
Maybe there's all the people that can't unlock it yet.
all the newbies. Maybe that's who's watching us today.
Amount of tea.
No.
So Shrek has asked, can the random events in Zenaris be removed? It's my favourite bank, but being locked in an animation for 5 seconds every now and then is annoying when doing bank standing skills or other things around Zenaris.
I normally hate removing nostalgic old content, but I hate that content more.
Yeah.
Could we do it so that
Sorry,
you're
Greg,
not?
if you're still out there.
Could we do it so you're not locked in place by the random events there?
Some of them you can, like when the frog's talking to you. Ones that transform you, no.
Okay.
But, you know, they were added to be funny and wacky. They may not be fulfilling this mission.
We don't have to like turn them off for everyone. You can have it like a character you talk to and say, can you get these people to stop annoying me? And
Yeah,
they
I like that.
stop, I suppose.
Yeah, next time you meet that choir, you can just tell it to go away and never come back.
You just shout at them.
All right. Well, it sounds like we're open to making that less annoying for you guys. Ryan wants to know, with the addition of crystal tools, what will happen to third age tools? He reckons they should be buffed to match crystal tools, given that they are the most expensive skilling tools. I've said tools so many times in that question. But yes, how do we feel about third age?
I don't know where third age currently fit in.
It's as good as Dragon, I think.
Oh, okay.
In my opinion, no, because they're meant to be cosmetic and not meant to be useful. But
Sure.
I think they kind of fit the same places third age armors do, where they're not best in slot armor for anything particularly. They're just a very nice cosmetic. I mean, the tools already aren't always the best in slot because you have infernal axes, infernal pickaxes,
And also the
and the
specs.
third age tools don't have those effects.
Sure.
I assume they don't have the specs to boost.
I think they do have the specials, yeah.
Oh, they do? This
Yeah.
shows I'm poor.
I reckon, I mean, all third age items are going to maintain their value despite not being
Yeah.
best in slot, just for their flex value.
Yeah, I've never seen anyone use those tools, but they are there and they are really expensive, so...
So, sort of similar things coming up with the Druid set that we just sort of talked about on the latest blog, saying that they wanted to sort of be a bit stronger. But I mean, third age has always just been that super rare, expensive piece of equipment.
Yeah, I don't
Sure.
see the Druidic set being the next proselyte,
Yeah.
because it's a bit too expensive.
I actually have Mod Ed's answer to this question. He says something along the same lines as us, which is it's worth remembering that third age is mostly about being cosmetic. He also notes that the Infernal tools are already better. And that raises another question I saw recently, which was how are we going to account for Infernal tools. Maybe there'll be players who wouldn't want to use the crystal equipment because it's not going to have the burn effect. So that's a point of feedback that I will add when we're looking into the extra rewards and stuff. Maybe we could do something with that.
It sort of works on sort of slightly incomparable. Like you have that one buff or you have that other buff. If we just keep making everything better and better and better, we sort of got that power creep.
Maybe ask players to make a choice between the two is the right way to go.
Yeah, the Infernal tools are going to make it more AFK, but the crystals would obviously make it better XP, I assume.
I believe so, yeah, with the
You won't
current
be able to drop
proposed
it
rates.
stuff as often. Can you get fire making XP?
Everyone loves that.
All right, so I have our last question here before I move on to some chat questions. It's from Bloke, and oh, never mind, it's a question that we've already answered. It's just been put twice here. I'll move on to the chat questions. So the first one is from Pop. They say, I previously asked Mod Ash on Twitter, but what does the team think about superior versions of the new Slayer monsters? An example could be phosphoric lizards.
That's a mouthful.
Yeah, I quite like that.
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea of just
I do like
superior versions.
Yeah, I do like superiors. It's always interesting when you get one. Like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
Are there any in particular that we'd like to see? I mean, obviously the Hydra's already got a boss version, but maybe the worms and drakes and stuff could get superiors.
That'd be nice.
They all look pretty darn good. I do regret that no one's asking for a superior fever spider so far.
Do they have any drops aside from... They don't, do they? They just sort of have no...
I don't
reason
know if
to
anyone
go.
even goes.
Yeah, so it's quite far out the way as well.
Rats are probably good enough at least.
Yeah, they drop something useful, that's why.
They got a unique.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure what the next player is asking, Kazvak. Well, I understand the words individually, but together they are, can we get an invisible boost on the new pearl rods? I assume they mean like a fishing boost.
Yes.
Oh, right, so they currently just act as a wieldable fishing rod.
Yeah, so I guess they want some kind of,
Added benefit. I mean, the benefit is that you're saving an inventory slot.
Do we feel that those rods aren't as powerful as they should be for cost?
I think they're also meant to be mostly a cosmetic, since it's just something to give you for doing aerial fishing.
Sure.
Saving the inventory slot is a real thing.
Well, I'm seeing lots of no's in chat, and it seems like we're not necessarily too concerned about the power of those rods.
Well, if we did do it, it would be presumably a buff to the XP rates of all the things you can catch with them. And that's not something we do just to say, well, we've got this reward item, it should maybe be a bit more than purely cosmetics. Let's buff, say, fly fishing across, or barbarian, if that's got one.
So it looks like the chat is saying that it's still better to have the harpoon instead for the boost that you can get from it.
Right.
So maybe giving them that sort of special attack might be better, but...
I quite like that idea.
H2M was too hard as asking whether the +7 boosts and the invisible boosts in skilling guilds stack with stat boosts from potions and stew and things like that. They do, including over 99.
Ooh. Oh, thank you for the nugget of information. I didn't know that personally.
It seemed a bit mean otherwise, because
It's like a debuff.
these stat buff items exist. It would be very easy to get to a point like in the low 90s where suddenly anything you do stops mattering, and that seemed a bit mean, so we programmed it to be different there.
Okay, Omaxu says there was an idea about improving the method to collect sand for crafting. Is there any update on that, or was the idea scrapped?
I made a cool asset for it.
Oh, you've made it.
Well, I made like a little sand crushing machine.
Awesome.
You'll recall what we put in the fourth poll, the miscellaneous one.
We pulled it then?
Yes.
Okay, yes, we did. Of course we did.
Has been developed with your asset, and I think it's still awaiting testing, but if I recall correctly, this one's from Mod Tide, who's, well, you've seen him on stream before. He's passed his training and is now making stuff. That's one of the things he's made. I don't recall all the details of it, but that's maybe it'll come next week if it passes testing. If not, a week or so after.
Oh, there we go. There's the ETA on the sandstone crushing machine, which I probably should have remembered more about, given that I probably wrote the poll question.
I thought you did, which is why I sort of assumed you'd remember that one, but okay.
Moving on.
I don't remember everything I've done. And,
Iron Queen asks if we have an update on the seed vault and balancing / streamlining for getting the farming contracts. This one I do remember about, so it's Mod Maz who's taken over the work on the seed vault. Do we know how close she might be to completion or not really?
well, she spent a couple of her own weekends working on that thing and made a lot of progress. Certainly went just over a week ago, she dropped me an email asking me to have a look at some of the code that wasn't working for her. And when I tweaked that to make it work, I found that it opened a perfectly respectable interface and I could deposit seeds into it. So she was definitely making good progress. As to how much further she's got to go, I don't know, because interfaces is never quick. But hopefully, if she doesn't have to spend too much time on other things, we'll be able to see that in the coming weeks.
Oh,
I was know about the asset. Mod Rai has been working on the asset, and yeah,
looking good.
Yeah,
Excellent.
Is it an actual piece of scenery that you keep your seed
it's a
in?
bit like a vault, but with like a little window in it, and you can see all your seeds inside.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
It's kind of cute.
And it'll be in the guild?
Yeah, so currently where the bank is, it'll be the opposite side. So where there's currently like a sort of inactive stall there with seeds on it, that'll be turned into the seed vault.
Ah, marvellous.
Oh, excellent.
I saw pictures of the actual global seed vault in Norway, and this sounds prettier.
Yeah, I did suggest that to him, but it was a bit big. You unsure?
No, the name's fine. It's just the first. Again, they can't construct sentences the way I would like them to. Sorry, Tommy Zima, but the first words you said, the winter toad, is a pet of an NPC.
Yeah, that is true. There's a winter.
Oh, the winter toad.
winter
Okay, yeah,
toad
no, that's
and the
my
winter
bad.
toad.
No, it's me, not them. They're asking if we'll allow players to get it too.
As an extra pet from the winter toad,
I guess.
or maybe as a
is how it would be.
transmog to the phoenix, which seems a bit of a stretch.
Well, that's it. I mean, Hunter's got more than one pet associated, right? So I mean,
Which one?
The Herbie Boys.
Oh, oh yeah, it's true.
so I'm not necessarily against certain skills having more than one pet associated with them.
Particularly as we never actually made the Phoenix work as a skill pet in the usual way.
Yeah, it's more. Yeah, it's a boss pet.
Yeah.
The Winter Toad, on the other hand, if people seriously want that thing following them around, then I don't think we'd mind.
I don't know what the pet hunters would say about that. After already probably doing quite a lot of.
They would
winter
hate
toad.
it. They would hate it.
Maybe we could just use bleach on an existing toad or something.
Okay, so it sounds like we're open to that idea. Apologies for the accusation, Tommy Zimmy. It was me, not you. Yizdemaster says, well, they ask, will crystal bows, shields, halberds be able to be repaired by the player after the new elf quest?
I don't believe we currently have any plans for that, but if it's a popular idea, then it's definitely something we can look at offering in Poll 2.
Sure. Maybe an elf in Prifddinas will teach you how to sort of sing crystals into,
Or they could
equipment.
sell you one of those bowls that people, rub the rim or something and it makes a crystal enchanting noise.
I think do we have one of those bowls in?
There's already a bowl in Brimstale's cave in the Gnome Stronghold,
Oh yeah, that's
and we are looking at more involvement of crystal singing.
So if we wanted to do it, then it sounds like we've got any number of ways of going about it,
Yeah.
with or without modifications to the player's throat to let them make those ultrasonic noises. But it's less clear whether that's wanted.
Sure. I quite like the idea of a crystal singing bowl in the player-owned house, making it yet even stronger, but I think it would look really cool, at least.
Oh yeah, there was a suggestion on the on Reddit I saw over the weekend of a sort of like a crystal palantir sort of thing that would work as sort of like an unlimited crystal seed teleport.
Okay, nice.
It's sort of cool idea.
Yeah, I know that's one of the more common requests, is a sort of infinite teleport to Prif. But yeah, we'll see how we work that out. Maybe a sync for the current seeds that you have that teleport there.
El Chapo, in response to your question, perhaps let Mod Maz know. I gather from things we've heard earlier in this stream that she's been helping collect those.
Ah, okay. Presumably that was a pure asking about stats.
God, I hope so. Well, then she's in for a very fun time.
Okay. Real Good Pizza wants to know what your favourite piece of content that you've worked on personally is, Modash.
The POH room rearrangement menu.
That is really cool.
It was the hardest thing I've programmed, but it was worth it, I think. And since I'd sort of thrown out the idea myself and then got to do it and got to do some of the graphics for it as well and made the darn thing work, it felt real. And
Nice.
Certainly you get the next RuneFest when people ask me about things I'd done in the last year, they all seem to think that had been a good one.
Ah, excellent. How long did that take you?
About 3 weeks or something. Menus are slow, and that's a complicated one, especially with staircases, where you move a room and it may or may not be connected to other rooms by stairs across 2 or possibly 3 levels if the stairs are spiral. Although the stairs are not spiral and they're kind of straight stairs, then there might be another room with a matching staircase that isn't meant to connect to it because straight stairs only go 2 levels, not 3.
Right.
And the logic for that lot took me quite a few iterations.
Yeah, well, it's hugely appreciated.
Yeah.
Faisals wants to know if the alternate model for Justicia could be added as an ornament kit for the Clue Scroll update. I suppose they're referring to the red and black design. Or am I...
I don't
Is
know.
that what they mean by alternate model?
There's so many alternate models now.
So?
Well, there's 2 models in the so in Verzik's chamber in the
okay.
boss room. There's 2 sets.
Yeah.
So the 2 that we sort of finalised with. So the one was made by, I think his name was Lion JRPG, and then the other set that was sort of
Good
a mixture of my design and Legends Arts design. So maybe that one, which is sort of just
Nice.
like an alternative Saradomin version, but it could also be the darker, the original version that I made back for the RuneFest 2016, 17, which I sort of have plans for, so I'd rather that not be the case.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
There's a teaser then.
I think it's already in game. You just can't do anything with it.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Tedwood says you could buff the rewards to Trouble Brewing. Sorry, could we buff the rewards to Trouble Brewing to make the content relevant again? Players have been asking this a lot about Trouble Brewing.
It's got a lot of rewards. Is that the problem?
Well, a lot of them are cosmetic naval outfits.
Yeah.
And there's only so much Trouble Brewing I'd be willing to play for
That's true.
all those naval outfits. I think that's where the term navel gazing comes from. There's also a medium clue scroll. Somebody calculated how long you'd have to play Trouble Brewing to get it, and found the answer was obscene. We offered, in fact, in an early poll to make it, to reduce that price, and players didn't vote for it because that's making the game easier, and no one likes that. But the stuff is probably the most,
Yeah.
it's got most potential.
So if we sort of extended brewing, which we have sort of discussed in the past.
Yeah.
Well, the fact that Brewing's now got a timer that we can more plausibly try and predict the rates of and do things with, like it used to be, players' documentation on the internet said that brewing your beer might take anything between 8 hours and 3 days. Like, seriously? That's not a skill balancing thing.
Yeah.
But since the timer got a bit more regular, we can do more with brewing. If we made the stuff guarantee mature, for example, then it might be a bit more worth having. Of course, not all the mature ones are worth having at all, but there is at least scope to do more with it.
I do remember a play design a few months, no, maybe a few years back now, that sort of addressed sort of buff to brewing, which would be quite potentially a thing to revisit.
The idea for a player in a house brewery room was quite well received at the time, although it really felt like it was just streamlining the process of going to the existing breweries because they are in awkward places, and all the things you have to do, like getting the pot of yeast by bringing the right thing to use on Metallarius or the dwarf. Bit of a faff.
Yeah.
And also walking back and forth to a water source wasn't very well streamlined.
Sure. I personally would like to see something done with it. I've seen myself a cool design for brewing as a rework. I think one of the more difficult things is coming up with good uses for the different ales that you can make, sort of fitting in between things that potions already do. Maybe we're sort of talking like alternate effects rather than stat boosts. But there's definitely scope for that, I think.
Back in RS3, there was that mud pit where you could jump in it and get a sort of Bandos god effect on you for the next however many minutes, which was like a Bandos item in God Wars. There's always the possibility of Ales of the Gods doing something of the sort. Not the Ale of the Gods, some other Ales of the Gods.
Nice. So that brings us just short of 6 o'clock, so I'm going to get some announcements in before we wrap things up. For anyone who missed the beginning of the stream, !new mod will bring you to Jagex Husky's Twitter. Drop him a follow. He's our new junior content developer. So if you want to see what he gets up to as he progresses, follow him there. !Treasure Trails will take you straight to our new poll blog that was put live today for the Treasure Trails rework. Lots of exciting rewards and new puzzles, etc. can be found there. And !rewards to get involved in the discussion on balancing crystal armor and giving us ideas for your post-quest content from Song of the Elves, things you'd like to see in Prif. And that about wraps things up for us. Thank you very much for watching. We will see you next week. Thank you to everyone on the couch for joining me. Hope you have a wonderful week. Catch you next time. Bye-bye.
See you.